Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Eyes of the Opposition series, a show in which I take a different look from the perspective of the opposition team. This week, of course, it is Liverpool, and answer them some questions, be it a fan, a writer, journalist or personality, someone who knows their stuff about the opposition. And I've got that exact thing this week, and this is, of course, the second episode that you're getting of Eyes of the Opposition. I interviewed Stay Hoare of Red Men TV, and you can still go check out that video on the channel. It was very insightful to get Stay's perspective on things. But this week I'm joined by someone I know very well from my time when I worked a little bit at TalkSport and did the Mission to Moscow show with Hugh Wizzy building up to the 2018 World Cup. And of course you can check him out on the Premier League's Fantasy Football Show, where he gives you some tips and tricks about who you should be putting into your team. I've taken some have worked, some haven't, and I will forever hold that against them if they don't. But I'm very happy to be joined by RamboFYI this week, who's going to be breaking down his side of things in regards to Liverpool. Now we're going to jump in and ask him a quick question about obviously the title race which Liverpool are involved in, a lot more in recent times, much more so than Arsenal, rather frustratingly. But Man City have already dropped points this season, and for that reason I'm asking a very simple question. Does he think now that this could be the time for Liverpool to step up and finally win that Premier League title?
TC, thank you for having me on as always. It's your boy RamboFYI. Pleasure to be here. Man City, Liverpool. Is Man City dropping points helping Liverpool this season? Right now, I don't think it's that important. I think dropping points at this stage of the season is probably, doesn't really matter too much, because Liverpool are not exactly going to build a great gap over City at this stage of the season. Do I think we have a better chance at the title this season? Also, not particularly sure, because I think City are actually stronger. The only thing Liverpool really have in benefit is that we won the Champions League last year, and Man City are desperate to win the Champions League. So I think in that sense, you could argue we have a slightly better chance, but I do think City are stronger. They dominated against Spurs. Should have won the game if it wasn't for VAR. Obviously, I was delighted. But that's probably going to come around and bite us in the bum at some point in the season as well. So I think in as a whole, I don't think we're better off or worse off than last season. I think because of our injury issues early on with Alisson, that might play a big part.
Interesting stuff. Now, this is, of course, the first chance to really see Liverpool and Arsenal tested in the league. Of course, we saw a Super League Cup tie between Liverpool and Chelsea, which showed a lot, but in the Premier League it's, of course, a different animal. So I'm interested to know how much of sort of a measuring stick is this game for both Liverpool and Arsenal from, obviously, the Anfield side of things.
Liverpool, Arsenal, obviously the main talking point this weekend. I think it's difficult because this is one of those games, listen, we've had a 4-4 between these two sides. We've had 5-1 Liverpool wins in the past as well. I think this is one of the best games in Premier League history. There's always goals, there's always chances, there's always incredible moments, there's bad decisions, there's always something going on in this game. I don't think this is a game where you can judge how good either of the two teams are, because we've had games where both teams have gone into this game feeling good, playing well, and all of a sudden out of nowhere the other team wins. So I don't think this is an easy fixture to look at and go, if Liverpool win this, they're at a better place than they were last season, or it's a big indication of their title chances. So I don't think Liverpool have played particularly well. Same for Arsenal, I don't think it's a big indication. I just think it'll be a goal fest. I think for sure if Arsenal don't beat Liverpool, it's probably an indication where Arsenal are, because I think Arsenal in general, people are thinking they're going to have a much bigger season than last season, but not a lot has changed. But for Liverpool, I think, again, not performing very well. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the defence. I just don't think it's the sort of game that we can look at and go, this will be an indication towards where this team's going to be at the end of the season.
Rambo, you are right. It is early days in the season. But I just have that sneaking suspicion that we might see some of the elements start to reveal themselves of those two sides, which could indicate what we might see from them going forwards. It's the big test. But I do completely agree with you on the fact that it's still very early, and I think there's a lot of opportunities still going forwards where we could see these teams develop and evolve and adapt through this season into possibly better or even worse sides, depending on the area that you're looking at. Defence for me is something in particular I'm concerned about, but something which has definitely boosted the fans' promise on Arsenal side is the signings we've made this summer. In terms of the perspective of a rival fan, does it really worry you, the type of business that Arsenal have conducted this summer?
Arsenal's transfer business. Personally, I don't think Arsenal compete for the title, so therefore I'm not particularly concerned as a Liverpool fan. But to see that Arsenal can go and get Pepe, they can go get David Luiz, they can get Dani Ceballos, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking that's great business. They're heading in the right direction. We could see an Arsenal title challenge in 2 or 3 years' time. But I think for the top four, if I was a top four club, I'd be worried. If I was Spurs, United, Chelsea, Everton or Leicester trying to get in there, I'd be worried because I'm looking at Arsenal and I'm thinking they haven't got that much going for them at this moment in time. No Champions League football, things like that. But it's kind of pieced together really, really well. And the side they have right now, the front three, is deadly. If they can get Lacazette, Pepe and Aubameyang really building the sort of partnership that Lacazette and Aubameyang have got, that friendship, that bromance. If Arsenal can get that with them three, they're a force to be reckoned with. But as a Liverpool fan, I'm not that concerned, to be honest.
We all know there's a gap between Arsenal and Liverpool, and I certainly thought the gap had closed slightly. But when I spoke to Stay in the previous Sides of the Opposition episode, he also said the gap is still considerable, and that's obviously synonymous across the Liverpool fan base. But the gap is definitely closing, and it's going to be interesting to see how much it has closed come Saturday afternoon. Now, I want to know those areas of weakness, Rambo, that we might be able to exploit as the Gunners, and I'm looking at that defence. They've got an amazing front line, but is that an area of weakness that Arsenal really could exploit?
I think Liverpool this season have been playing a much higher line. They're trying to play like an offside trap. Personally, I think Liverpool want to press 30 yards further up the pitch, so their front three have a lot less work to do, so they can press in the middle, the ball turns over, and then we're deadly and clinical in the final third. Now, that hasn't happened yet. I think they're still trying to figure that out. The worry for me is coming up against Arsenal with that pace of Aubameyang. If Lacazette plays, he's pretty nippy as well. If Pepe plays, he's electric. You've suddenly got three very, very quick players to worry about. I don't know whether Trent plays or not. I think it's a difficult game to leave him out because it's at home and he tends to play the big games at home. And Gomez seems to be cover at centre-back now. Personally, I think if Trent plays, that is where Arsenal can have a lot of joy because he gets caught out of position a fair bit. And I just think Arsenal, I think in the middle, Arsenal looks better with Dani Ceballos, but I don't believe the hype just yet. It's only been one game. His second assist was a tackle. I think the way he gets the ball from A to B is electric compared to the other midfielders. And I think that's an area where Arsenal can dominate, because Liverpool have been sloppy in possession. Fabinho, Henderson, Milner in particular have been really sloppy in possession. It'll be interesting to see who starts for Liverpool. I think Gini Wijnaldum starts and Liverpool will keep the ball a lot better in the middle, but I think that is where Arsenal can exploit, and of course the pace up front.
Wow, Trent Alexander-Arnold is a weakness. I like to think I watch enough of the Premier League to have an opinion on every single team, but thinking of him as a weakness in the side, yes, going forward he's excellent. That gap in behind could be exploited by Arsenal. Aubameyang being on that side most likely if Pepe does start. But maybe he won't. Maybe he'll start on the right again with Nelson starting on the left. Who knows? But it's going to be pacey no matter that player that tries to exploit the England fullback. And whether they can or not is of course another thing. Now, moving into the final question, I want to know where your head's at, Rambo. I want to know a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think this game is going to play out?
Honestly, as I mentioned, it's one of my favourite fixtures. Two sides that love scoring goals, two sides that love going forward. Yes, I did just tense my bicep unintentionally. I think, if I'm honest, I think I can see the game being quite literally end-to-end. Liverpool, I think, will definitely leak chances and goals. Arsenal will always leak chances and goals. I think it's going to be 4-2 to Liverpool. I think Arsenal will take the lead. Now, I think Liverpool have that burst they often do at Anfield in big games, a 20-30 minute spell where we'll be all over you. We'll probably get a couple of goals to make it 2-1. I think at half-time Liverpool will probably go 2-1 up. I think it's going to be an enthralling game. I don't think there's going to be that much tactics to it. And I know that sounds bad, but I think the teams will stick to their tactics that they usually do. I don't think Pepe starts. And I think it'll just be one of those games that's literally a ding-dong game. It goes end-to-end, chance after chance, goalkeeping saves, goal line clearances, the lot. I think it's just going to be two heavy metal clubs going punch for punch. And I just think on a day like that, there's only one team that can actually beat Liverpool on a day like that. It's probably Man City. I think every other team, including Arsenal, will struggle to beat Liverpool on a day like that because the front three is incredibly clinical. And although the back four's been leaking chances, we haven't actually leaked that many goals. Last game, the Southampton goal comes from an Adrian error. I don't think that happens again. Either way, I think it's just going to be an enthralling encounter. I think it's going to be a great game of football, and it's going to be, as I always say about this fixture, a great advertisement for the Premier League.
So, I've been running this show for a fair few years, and I've never in my time had a guest come on and use it to promote their biceps. That is a completely new one on me. A nice bit of self-promotion there for you, Rambo. But on a serious note, it's going to be a difficult one for Arsenal. We know that. We know that both teams are going to score. I think, and you highlighted that in your preview on your Premier League show, and I think that in terms of goals, there's going to be plenty. I went for a 2-2, and I thought that was optimistic. So a 4-2 from Liverpool perspective, I don't think is by far outside the box whatsoever. I think it's certainly within the realms of possibility. I hope it isn't, and I hope that's not what happens. But it's always possible when you're going up against a team like Liverpool, especially at Anfield, that you've got the opposition are really going to be gunning for you, and we could be conceding a fair few goals if our defence does not stack up to expectation. I'm going to leave things there. thank you ever so much for tuning in, and big thanks to Rambo, of course, for coming on and giving up his time this morning to throw in some answers ahead of the big game. You can, of course, go check out all of his stuff in the links in the description, and go check out his Twitter, RamboFYI. I'll see you again very, very soon. Of course, I am away this weekend because of a festival that I am at, but I will be keeping up to date as much as feasibly possible. I'm back on Monday giving you the raw reactions, the podcast, all the usual stuff. We'll be back this weekend, or this Monday rather, and I hope you tune in for that. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, please subscribe if you're new around here with those notifications turned on, and I'll see you again very, very soon, and as always, up the Arsenal.